Welcome to Learning Plan 3. This unit will be looking at using Excel to take a look at financial transactions that are not only important individually to all of us at some point in our lives, but are also useful in your career if you venture into the financial sector. Let's begin by taking a look at a classic mortgage and calculating the monthly payment in different interest rate environments. This spreadsheet is set up by taking a look at the total principal amount of your mortgage in column B. Each row increases by $5,000. So you could change this number to whatever would be your price range. Maybe you're looking at houses starting at $60,000, or that would be the amount of principal you're going to be taking a look at, up to $155,000. But for this case, let's keep it at $100,000. Same with the interest rates along the top. These are all increasing by 0.2%. Rates have fluctuated over the last several years, especially on a 15-year mortgage. So I've dropped in 2.75 since that's the lowest that I've actually seen them dip in the last couple years. So from 2.75, we're going up by 0.2% to give us a nice range of possible interest rate environments. So to begin our analysis, let's go to our first cell here, D4, okay? And we're going to go ahead and drop in a formula. And the formula that we're looking for here, we're hitting formulas, okay? Insert function. The category that we're looking at is the financial category, okay? And the formula that we're looking for, the function is payment, PMT. We're going to say OK. So the very first thing that this function argument is looking for is the rate. Now we have our rates listed across the top here, and these are annual rates. One thing to keep in mind is that this rate is looking for the monthly rate. So what we can do is we can grab our rate and just say divide by 12. When it comes to the next line, this is looking for the total number of payments for the loan. So we've got, for a 15-year mortgage, there's 180 payments. So we'll go ahead and select cell E1. And the last cell that we need to fill in for our formula to work is the principal amount, okay, which is the present value of the total amount that a series of future payments is worth now, which is whatever the original principal amount you're taking out in your mortgage. So we'll go ahead and select that one, and that would be B4. All right, so let's go ahead and hit enter. And you can see that the monthly payment that is being calculated is coming up as a negative number. For our purposes, we would like to see that as positive. So if we just insert a negative sign at the beginning of our formula, go ahead and hit enter, and now we can see that monthly payment in a positive format. Okay? So we don't really want to type this formula into every single cell. We can use the tool we know to drag our formula down and drag our formula across. But if we're going to do that, we're going to have to use some absolute values because we don't want all of our numbers to move along with us. So let's start out by taking a look at D2. D2 is our interest rate. So when we pull this formula here to the right, we want the 2 to remain constant, and we want our formula to pull the numbers for the columns, we want that to be changing. So what we can do here is if we want the 2 to remain constant, we'll put our dollar sign right in front of the 2. Okay? The next one we're looking at is cell E1. Now E1, whether I pull my formula down or pull my formula across, I want this one to stay right where it is. So here I want a dollar sign in front of and behind the E. So a quick shortcut to use here, instead of typing in those dollar signs, you can just hit F4. Okay? And if you hit F4, it'll put that in absolute value form for you. Taking a look at B4, as we pull our formula down, we want the B column to stay constant, but we want to reference the corresponding number down. Okay, so in that case, we want the dollar sign in front of the B. And we can also use our F4 shortcut. Right away, it does both sides of the B. If you hit F4 again, it'll go in front of the number. And if you hit F4 one more time, it will go in front of the B like we want. So let's hit enter. Now our formula is set up for us to be able to pull it all the way down and all the way across. So let's double check a couple of these cells. If you just double click on it, it will highlight the cells that it's referencing to. And that looks great. So let's escape off of this one. Let's take a look at this cell. Looks like our formula is working just as we want it to. And if you happen to have a mortgage, if you already own a house and have a mortgage in this range and you have a 15-year mortgage in one of these interest rate ranges, it would be a great thing to do to just double check. Say, hey, you know, if I have a $125,000 mortgage that I took out at 2.75%, yeah, my monthly payment is $848. So this spreadsheet is working correctly. And I think that this spreadsheet personally comes in very handy if you are house hunting. Let's say you're a renter and right now you pay about $900 a month in rent. Current interest rates on a 15-year mortgage are about maybe 3.15%, somewhere in this range. You know, so if you could handle the extra property taxes and maintenance on a home, and you were just looking at your monthly payment of your mortgage, you know, maybe you'd be looking, if you wanted to keep your payments around $900 in the $130,000 principal mortgage amount range when you're taking a look at houses. So let's say you go out and you do your house search and you can't find anything you like for $130,000. So maybe you're more comfortable with a 30-year mortgage. The way we have this spreadsheet set up, we could go ahead and change this to a 30-year mortgage just by putting in 360 payments. Okay? Now, if you were in a 30-year mortgage, your interest rate would change, be a little bit higher, maybe in the 4% range. If $900 was your range, okay, now maybe you could look at houses up to $185,000. So kind of a really neat tool if you're doing that transition from renting to owning, and kind of fun to play with. So maybe you're not sure whether you want to do a 15-year mortgage commitment or a 30-year mortgage commitment. Let's go ahead and put this back to our 180 payments. Maybe we want to just take a look at the 15 and the 30-year side by side. Well, we could easily do that just by building our formula down here. And so let's do that quickly just to kind of run through that formula one more time. So let's go ahead and do formulas, insert function. We're in the financial category. We're going to go down to payment. Click OK. For rate, we're grabbing our rate and we're dividing by 12 because we're looking for the monthly. For number of payments, now we're going to grab cell E27. For principal amount, we're going to grab cell B30. And we can do our absolute value Right in this part, we don't have to wait until we hit enter. So we can go ahead and let's just take a look at our first one. So D28, we want the D to stay the same. I'm sorry, we want the 28 to stay the same. So we'll go ahead and put our $ there. We can even use our F4 function in here. Okay. So let's also do our F4 function here. We can say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and drop that negative sign in there to give me a positive number. And now I can drag my formula down and across. So now you've got two different tables. You've got a 15-year mortgage and a 30-year mortgage. This is kind of fun to compare. Let's say you're in that $130,000 home search range. Okay? So if you were debating between a 15-year and a 30-year mortgage, you could pay $907 a month for 15 years to buy a $130,000 house. Or you could pop down here and do a 30-year mortgage. Now you're not going to get that great 3.15% interest rate. You're probably going to be more along the lines of 4.15. So you could do $631 a month over 30 years versus $907 over 15 years. Okay, so you're looking at, you know, maybe a $270 difference, but you know, you're paying for 15 less years in this scenario. So very interesting tool to take a look at when you are home hunting or making that transition from renting to buying. Well, this concludes Learning Plan 3. I want to thank you for joining me today, and hopefully you found an interesting tool to use.